This is Felicity. I'm speaking to you from my library, and this is another one in my very roughly titled series of In My Library collections. And these are, so far I've done I think 3 or 4 of them. Umberto Eco in my library, Dunsany in my library, and this evening I've collected together all of the books. And it is actually a physical act because my books of even the same author, which I have, may be scattered in various different parts of my house. Maybe I'm reading one of them, or maybe they're all different sizes, and so they live in different shelves where everything is shelved by size, because otherwise I would run out of room. Not that I haven't already. And some may be shelved in different areas of my library because one might be fiction, one might be essays, one might be some kind of a history or something that's completely not related to the genre, which is how I usually file, store, shelve my books. Be that may, when I decide I'm going to go and find, say, all of one author that I have in my library, sometimes it's quite easy because they're all in the same place, and sometimes I have to look very hard because I cannot remember where I've put that last book. So this evening I have picked another author who I enjoy a great deal and have gotten much more interested in recent years. Don't think it really kind of rung any bells when I was younger, but it's definitely become, she's become a fairly important part of my literary life, and that is Virginia Woolf. So this evening it is Virginia Woolf in my library. So here is The Waves. This is one of her very late works. This one I picked up at a delightful bookstore in Los Angeles. 2019 was my last little vacation before I didn't get any vacations because we've had COVID and shutdowns and various things which kind of required me to be working, and there you go. So since then I have become an armchair traveler. Well, I can think of worse things. Anyway, this is a really nice, it's a vintage classics. I got it new, so it's perfect. And it is, I read it shortly after I got back, and it's, I read it again last year. It's pretty amazing. It's kind of a novel. It is abstract. It is not, there's definitely things that happen in it. There's a series of characters that that you follow through from childhood till the end, till very near the end, in many cases, sometimes the very end. And it's like an abstract painting. It's beautiful. It's really different. It's Virginia Woolf. So the next one is a Harcourt Embrace publication. This one is Mrs. Dalloway, which is pretty different. This is early Virginia Woolf, and again, this is a nice paperback. Print isn't too bad. I think The Waves was the Waves is these paperbacks they're very affordable. I can't remember where I got this one. Probably Moe's, because this one was actually used, and they actually have a very good selection of Virginia Woolf. So I usually find something when I go there. Mrs. Dalloway, and I have Jacob's Room, which I picked up very recently and just finished about 2 or 3 months ago. That was pretty amazing. So Virginia Woolf, of course, she wrote very sympathetically of female characters, and she was a female, so she put herself into it. Jacob's Room is about a not woman. It's about Jacob, but there's a lot of people in Jacob's life, and it does carry you through from his very early years to his death. He died very young because he was fighting in a battle in war. I forget what it was. It was oh yeah, he was fighting in Greece, and there's a short life that he had. This book talks about it. In this Virginia Woolf, she describes very poetically what's going on with his life and the women in his life. There's a lot of dialogue. It's beautifully written. So it's the back cover This was actually new. I had not even seen. I didn't even know it existed. So I found out a lot because I really only the only Woolf I knew was Earl of One's Own. So listless, set in the halcyon days of pre-war innocence, Virginia Woolf's third novel, Jacob's Room, follows the progress of a young man as he passes from adolescence to adulthood in a hazy rite of passage. Wandering through the windswept shores of Cornwall to the sun-scorched landscape of Greece, his character is revealed in a stream of loosely related incidents. Well, actually kind of like then pushed, the waves is that only magnified tenfold. Thoughts and impressions. What is Jacob's Room? Between the Acts. Have I read this one? I actually have not read this one yet, so that's great. Something new to read. I just finished a couple days ago Her Night and Day, which was pretty astonishing. All these books that I never had. I didn't really get into her fiction until very recently. Mostly what I'd had before was her essays, her nonfiction, which are amazing, brilliant, some of them brutal, magnificently written. She had fantastic style. So there we go. This is Between the Acts, and the story takes place on a June day in 1939 at Points Hall, the Oliver family's country house in the heart of England. So I look forward to reading that at some point. Okay, here we go. This is nonfiction. This is books and portraits. I just got this one as well. So this is I'm constantly picking up vast quantities of books that I can't possibly all read until before I get my next giant stack of books. So I kind of gone easy on getting books because I have all these wonderful books that need reading. Anyway, books and portraits, some further selections from the literary and biographical writings of Virginia Woolf. I have not read this yet. These are literary and critical essays. Actually, I might have read one or two. A Women's College from Outside, On a Faithful Friend, Papers on Pepys, Patmore's Criticism. There's these are literary essays. I should read that. Maybe next. Who knows? 3 Guineas. This is fantastic. This is a scathing essay, very long essay about women's education. So this is Virginia Woolf, and when she was during her lifetime, women were finally allowed to vote and also were permitted to get actual degrees from the colleges. 3 guineas. Mrs. Woolf has received 3 separate requests for a guinea, one for a women's college building fund, one for a society promoting the employment of professional women, and one to help prevent war and protect culture and intellectual liberty. The book is a threefold answer to these 3 requests, and as Mrs. Woolf examines the 3 causes and points out that they are inseparably the same, she declares a new tactic of feminine purpose. It's really good. All right. Oh, the second common reader. Do I still have the first common reader? I don't even know if I read it. I checked it out of the UC Berkeley Library and read it. So I haven't seen it, a copy available for purchase, but these are wonderful. It's a collection of, again, these are, I think most of the ones I read in this one were the literary essays, but she talks about all kinds of books that I'm interested in that I read. For example, Dick Quincy's autobiography, Dr. Burney's Evening Party, Swift's Journey, Journal to Stella, The Sentimental Journey, The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia. She talks about all of these books and all of these writings in a way that makes you want to run right out and get them. In fact, I think after reading this, I did actually acquire a number of books that were not already in my library. I haven't finished yet. For example, The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia. I have not read that. I want to. I have it now. Robinson Crusoe. I have that. I've read that. There you go. Mary Wollstonecraft. Cowper and Lady Austen. So, second common reader. Just a wonderful writer. Absolutely to the point, no wasted words, no fluff, no drama, just really good writing. When the second against the blurb, so when the second Common Reader was published in 1932, the New York Times said of its author, "As nearly perfect as heaven grants it to a critic to be." Here, in 26 essays, Virginia Woolf writes of English literature in its various forms: the poetry of John Donne, the diaries of two country parsons, the novels of Defoe, Sterne, Meredith, and Hardy, Lord Chesterfield's letters, and De Quincey's autobiography. Yes, it's worth reading, worth having, and maybe reading all of them someday. It's another one I haven't read. Orlando. There's a lot. This is on my must-read list. Haven't gotten to it. Have too many other books. Too many other great books to read. We'll get to it eventually. Orlando is Virginia Woolf's fantastical biography of a poet who first appears as a 16-year-old boy at the court of Elizabeth I and is left at the novel's end a married woman in the year 1928. Part love letter to Vita Sackville-West, part exploration of the art of biography, Orlando is one of Woolf's most popular and entertaining works. Oh gosh, I should read it right away, right after the next one I'm going to read. This new annotated edition will deepen readers' understanding of Woolf's brilliant creation, so it's great. Something of a harvest book. All right. I've had for quite a while. I have read it, To the Lighthouse. It's lovely. This one, I think, I can't remember if I picked this one up or whether it was from my parents' collection, but it is a modern library and still in really, really good shape. It's a beautiful thing. The Lighthouse is another book. I actually think of this as being almost more like The Waves. It moves. It moves like poetry, and there are various episodes that happen that you can say, oh look, here's a thing that's happening here, and then there's all this just like this mellifluous moving through all the events, moving from one to the other, and beautiful writing. So, Lighthouse is actually one of her most renowned novels. All right, this one I'm not sure if I've read yet. This is The Years. I probably should. I will get to it. I will get to it. I swear I will get to it. The Years. Where does it start? It starts at the beginning. Harcourt, Brace and Company. This one was printed. This one was published in 1937, and this is the first American edition. It's not in great shape. I might have gotten this out of my parents' library. It's got somebody's name in it. It's kind of beat up. It was an uncertain spring. It's 1880. It was an uncertain spring. The weather perpetually changing, sent clouds of blue and of purple flying over the land. In the country, farmers looking at the fields were apprehensive. In London, umbrellas were opened and then shut by people looking up at the sky. But in April, such weather was to be expected. Thousands of shop assistants made that remark as they handed neat parcels to ladies in flounced dresses standing on the other side of the counter at Whiteley's and the Army and Navy stores. Interminable processions of shoppers in the West End, of businessmen in the East, paraded the pavements like caravans perpetually marching, so it seemed to those who had any reason to pause, say to post a letter at a club window in Piccadilly. That's a sentence. My goodness. All right. Cute little thing. I'm being ill. And I picked this up, I think, in my last big haul from Moe's. And no, I haven't read it yet. It's a really handsome little book, though. It's pretty end papers, lovely paper in that. And who's the printer, publisher of this guy? Paris Press in Ashfield, Massachusetts. Small press. I love those. So nice. It was a cute little thing, and I should just read it because you know what? It's not very long, and it's beautiful. The printing in that. Oh. Yeah, books. Right, this one I just finished. This is Night and Day. This is a was her second novel, her first one. This is her second novel. And there's a very good intro to that. There's a very good intro to this, which I read. It's interesting. This is a good historical piece. She worked very, very hard on this. I think her first novel was The Voyage Out, which I do not have. Maybe sometime. Anyway, so I have, this is her second novel, and I can't compare it to The Voyage Out because I haven't read it, but I have read Night and Day, and it is illustrated quite beautifully. It has little periodic black and white illustrations at the beginning of major sections, and it is could be looked at as kind of like a really odd, sort of like a slightly bohemian romance, because there's a couple female characters and there's a couple of male characters, and things kind of get switched up at the end, and there's a really interesting kind of a comparison between somebody who seems to be has got everything going for them. They've got the beautiful life, the literary parents, the fine education and the beautiful things, and then there's the people that don't have so much of those things, that in the end seem to actually be more controlled and more have more goals and have more happiness than the well-to-do characters introduced at the start. I read this. I picked this up because I was having good trouble getting through my slow reading books, which I had assigned myself for July. But this one kind of flew by. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful story. There's a lot going on. But it doesn't go over a very long period of time. It's, I think, only really a couple months, and this is sort of one of these places that they describe, that she described, that Woolf describes. Her characters, they've reached important turning points in their lives where they're either going to do something with themselves, or they're going to give up and not do something with themselves. And both of them show up in this book, which is pretty good. All right, so here goes essays. I actually looked at the collection UC Berkeley has, and they have a giant collection of Virginia Woolf. Of course, that they have duplicates and various different editions of different things, but there's a whole shelf that has nothing but Virginia Woolf on it. It's a thing. Yeah, but I can't keep those books. I have to give them back. That's the problem with any kind of public library. That no matter how wonderful the books are and how much you enjoy finding the books, once you're tantalized, because you'll find a wonderful book and you'll read it and you say, oh, this is definitely a book I'm looking for, but you don't get to keep it. You have to give it back. These are my books. Right. This is another set of essays by this is 1912 to 1918, so oh my goodness, World War I essays, and these are actually dated. Again, a lot of literary essays. Mr. Sessing's poems, South Wind, Thoreau, Lord Jim, Charlotte Bronte. Actually, I read a number of these over a number of years. I've had this for quite a while. This is not beautiful paper. This one was published in the first American edition, and it was published in 1941, I think. I probably should figure that out. I don't really care. I mean, it's a nice book, and I've got it. And although the paper is starting to yellow, the book itself is really pretty good shape. Anyway, so this is again essays, and this was my toehold into Virginia Woolf. Were her essays, because they are very much to the point. I will read one of them someday to you, whoever you are out there. All right, got two more to go. Of course, here we go. A Room of One's Own. I had this one for a long time. I've read it a couple times, and this one was my mother's. Oh my goodness, yeah. This is also, it would be that Harcourt, Brace and Company. This is why the paper is really poor. It's a wartime book. There you go. Tells you everything you need to know. It's not an apology, but it's definitely why the paper is pretty poor. But my mother was pretty careful with things, and this is in good shape. It's been read quite a bit. This one was copyrighted in 1929, but wartime book means this was a World War II book. And so I guess it was printed in the early 1940s. There you go. So this is my copy of A Room One Zone. And this definitely was the first thing, the work of Virginia Woolf that I read, and this pretty much says it all. Everybody needs a place where they can be on their own, to think about what they need to think about, to do what they need to do, write what they need to write, and if you don't have that room, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to write, to think, to work, to practice, to create art, to create anything, and she lays it a lot in this book. The last one, it's a little bit of a curiosity. I have a small collection of what I call children's books by famous authors, and here's my one by Virginia Woolf. It is The Widow and the Parrot, and it is, what a fun book. It's a kid's book. This one was so illustrated by Julian Bell, who is actually related to Virginia Woolf. When Virginia Woolf's young nephews Quentin and Julian Bell asked their famous relative to contribute a story to the family newspaper, they expected something as riotous as Aunt Virginia herself. There you go. She fooled them by writing a tongue-in-cheek Victorian tale containing a moral. Kindness to animals, in this case, a large gray parrot named James, can bring the most surprising rewards, as a poor widow learns when she claims an inheritance left by her miserly brother. This is really fun. Here she is. Oh, there's your reward. Did I give away the story? Yes, the house, the horrible house she inherited from her miserly brother, which was worthless, burned down in the night. And there in the ashes of the house, the bird who she was going to adopt because she loves animals, showed her where the gold was hidden. Great story. Anyway, that's Virginia Woolf too. And that's it. That's my collection of Virginia Woolf. That is Virginia Woolf in my library. Thank you for wading through all those books with me, and goodbye for now.